Hi, dear ones. Welcome. Here we are, part two of Real Talk Business Abundance. So delighted to be back with you today. Let's take a breath or three together and ground and presence ourselves. So maybe feeling your sits bones or your feet or whatever part of you is touching the earth, the floor, the ground, feeling that point of connection and acknowledging the sense of being held by the earth, by the floor, by the seat, by your feet, by your sits bones, by the cushion, the chair, and simply feel the earth taking your weight. And then taking a big breath into the belly and sighing it out. Good, and another. And one more. And simply noticing before we open our eyes how good it feels to take a breath, a conscious, intentional breath in and out. I think we sometimes forget and take it for granted and forget how pleasurable, how pleasureful it is to be oxygenated. And of course, we remember when we get a cold or when we get congested and all of a sudden our airways are blocked, then we really remember how pleasureful it is simply to be breathed. So let's take one more breath. Beautiful. And as a presencing and intentioning and centering piece for us, I'd love for you to invite in the awareness and remembrance of your sovereign choice to be here today. And I would love to invite you to go all in, whatever that means for you. Maybe that means to participate in the chat. Maybe that means to be present and not multitask. Maybe that means to take notes or to vow to yourself that you're going to do whatever is recommended today with curiosity. So whatever that looks like for you, taking one more moment to simply say yes to being here together in a wholehearted way. And then giving yourself a wiggle, a shake, opening your eyes. Hi, dear ones. And I say yes too, to being here with you all wholeheartedly, with my whole self, with my whole presence. And I'm so grateful to spend this time together. As I said that, there's something else from the Gene Keys, which I talked about a little bit yesterday, that I think about a lot. And one of the Gene Keys, which are based on the I Ching, the most ancient oracle of the I Ching, it talks about half-heartedness versus wholeheartedness. And something that is said in that book that I keep really dear and near to me is anything done half-hearted isn't worth doing. Anything done half-hearted isn't worth doing, right? There's so much more to explore there. And let that be an invocation and an invitation today for us to be here together wholeheartedly across space and time. And I would love to hear in the chat, if you were here with us yesterday, What was like the cream on top for you yesterday? If there was one kind of biggest takeaway or biggest aha, I would love to hear in the chat what that was for you. And if you weren't with us yesterday and you haven't gotten a chance to watch the replay, no worries, you have time, you haven't missed anything. And maybe you can simply let us know what your intention is for today if you weren't here yesterday. What kind of energy you're bringing in to this exploration today. I've got my Sing mug today full of tangerine stress relief or something like that. A little oat milk. Cheers. Cheers, beloveds. Yesterday we talked a lot about prosperity and what it means for us, right? And one of the lessons was that prosperity is relative, which means that it doesn't mean the same thing for you that it does for me. One of my ways of knowing when I am prospering is when I am singing. When I'm singing and getting in my instruments every single day, then it's not the whole puzzle, right? But it's one piece of the puzzle. And maybe that's a great moment to introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me or doesn't know me well. I am Britta GreenViolet, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I am a teacher and a mentor and a guide. And what I am really interested in and passionate about is dismantling ambition, feeling prolific and peaceful at the same time, living into our calling, and creating not only a spirit-led body of work, but a spirit-led life, where we are really bridging the mystic and the mundane, the spiritual and the practical on a daily basis. That is what I'm here for. I'm into it. Let's go. Yeah, so I'm seeing some good things in the chat. Prosperity is simplicity, right? Such a good one. Yeah, and the homework, tried to go deep with it. Took me a few edits. I like it. Yeah, this is a lifelong exploration. And these are deep queries, they're deep prompts, and the more practical things, which we're going to start to get into today and even more maybe tomorrow, you'll find that they're not one and done things, right? They require our attention. We talked about the economy of attention yesterday. They require our attention over and over again. And that is going to continue on because, as we know, God is change, says the great Octavia Butler. I enjoyed the process of writing down why I want more money. The invocation created clarity. That's right. Beautiful. I love that, Allison. Thanks for sharing. So today we are going to be talking about naming your obstacles. And before I even get into that, I want to say that one of the pieces that I think is being debunked on some level when it comes to spirituality and manifesting is that when we are manifesting, when we're calling in something, and that would certainly include money, right? Calling in money, calling in abundance, calling in prosperity, that there's sort of this fear that we don't want to look at what isn't going well, what's not flowing, what feels stagnant, because we're afraid that by looking there, we're going to call more of it to us. And what I'm learning is that the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind creates between 90 to 95% of our life experience. And what that means is that the decisions we make, the words we use, the thoughts that pop into our head and our psyche without our permission, right? All of that comes from the subconscious. So we can think consciously all we want about what it is we want. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. That is part of it, right? We also have to do that because that trains our conscious brain. And we also have to do the underlying unconscious, subconscious work of deprogramming, reprogramming, healing, and then taking the awakened action steps that align with that new reality, that new neural pathway. So I want to say that as a primer before we get into today, because we're going to be talking about our obstacles, and this can get a little prickly. Although I'm going to invite for this to be curiosity led for us today. All right, we ready? We ready to lead with curiosity? All right, I've got some slide magic again today. And let me know in the chat if you can see this. Okay, great. So, day 2, name your obstacles. Name your obstacles. So just like what I love Allison shared in the chat, that naming why we want more money, why we want abundance, why we want prosperity is very helpful in clarifying. Naming our obstacles is the same. So, brief reminder, yesterday we talked about what I'm calling the economy of attention. And this is our own personal ecosystem, right, of attention in our lives. This is an economy. And when this economy of our attention is feeling right and tight, right, when we have right relationship with our frequency, with our dollars, and with our actions, which include our words, then our economy is going to be flowering. It's going to be thriving. It's going to be prospering. And that's what I'm here for. That's what we are here for. So first of all, we'll start with this quick reality check, which I mentioned yesterday that the author of the Gene Keys, Richard Rudd, talks about a lot. Spiro ergo prospero in Latin means I breathe, therefore I prosper. So first of all, can we all simply raise our arms and take another breath? We're alive. We're alive, y'all. We are alive and well, hopefully somewhat. We are well enough to be here today, and blessed be, right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this moment, for this opportunity to be alive on planet Earth, even though that is a big curriculum in today's day and age. Am I right? A little intense around here on this planet right now. So the first thing that I would love to invite you to do, and simply in the chat, maybe typing in there, where in your life right now are you already feeling prosperous? And let's remember that prosperity is bigger than wealth, right? It's bigger than money. Financial wellness is a part of it. And we talked yesterday about what prosperity actually means for you. So quickly, from your gut, from your intuition, from your heart, where are you prospering right now in your life? Is it community? Is it family? Is it friends? Are you feeling inspired in your kitchen? Are you feeling inspired in your wardrobe? Is work going well? Do you love your clients or patients? Are you loving your job? Are you in divine partnership and you're more and more in love with your partner all the time? Are you dating and you went on a spicy date lately? Like where are we prospering? Let's take a moment and simply acknowledge it, because it's important, really important to do that. I feel like it's the balance pose, right? It's the tree pose where we are gonna be naming our obstacles, and let's also name our blessings. Always, let's find the balance and then make the micro adjustments to call in more of where we're flowering and prospering. Good. I love that in the chat. I always tell all of my clients that Celebrating the wins is so important. And when we don't feel like we're prospering, that's usually the first thing to go, is our self-care and our acknowledging ourselves. But that's fuel. That is precious fuel for us. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I love seeing that. And if you aren't somebody who writes down your wins, who acknowledges your wins, this is such a beautiful practice in the morning and or in the evening. You can simply lie in bed and think them to yourself, or you can write them down. What are 3 wins today? What were 3 amazing things that happened today? And they can be tiny, right? They can be tiny. They could be, I saw a flower in the garden and in February and it burst my heart open, right? It could be somebody smiled at me at the grocery store. Or it could be I got paid, I got a new client, I got somebody signed up for my program, somebody came into my shop and bought $500 worth of stuff, right? It could be anything. All right, so that's the wins. Now let's move on to what I'm going to call the Voldemort effect. So, Harry Potter fan right here. Shout out to my HP fans if any of y'all are here. It's okay if you're not. I know I'm outing myself. This isn't really outing myself, but I am a total nerd. So, the Voldemort effect, this is maybe not the perfect quote from Hermione, but pretty much she says, fear of the name increases fear of the thing itself. Okay, so I'm not going to go into like who Voldemort is if you don't know. I mean, come on, get on the train. HP is amazing. And this is the basic premise, right? That fear of the name, if we are afraid, so going back to that economy of attention, if we're afraid of looking at our numbers, if we're afraid of getting in there and seeing what's actually happening, if we're afraid of naming where we feel out of balance or out of vibration, out of tune, then we're only going to expand and kind of compound the overwhelm. What I find for myself is whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, it always comes from a place of avoidance and ignorance. Ignorance, right? All right, so let's talk about obstacles. I'd love to tell you a personal short story before we get into you naming your obstacles. So some of you probably know that I recently purchased my first home, and you're in it with me across space and time. Welcome. Welcome to Casa Coraje, the House of Courage. And it's right there in that picture. This is my beloved Ben and I on New Year's Day this year. We made our first fire on the land and I burned a bunch of old journals. It was amazing. So this was such an epic journey for me into home ownership. So let's talk about obstacles, because there are layers of obstacles, right? And you've heard me talk about the spiritual and the practical, right? And this whole piece of real talk business abundance, hopefully you get that in there. There's a lot of tension in there, right? Like business abundance. There's a lot of esoterica and mystic and mysticism and energetics. And then there's a lot of real talk, practical action steps. So obstacles when I was gearing up to buy this house, which was years and really decades, right? And I didn't even put on here the dreaming and visioning phase. I don't really feel like that was an obstacle. That was like the fun part, right? But let's go through some layers of obstacles. So layer number 1 was the money obstacle, right? And even that broke down into several pieces for me. First of all, I needed to increase my revenue so that I could actually have a budget for buying a house. And then I needed to save a down payment to buy a house. And then I needed to get approved for a home loan, which I recently recorded a podcast. I have a podcast. If you aren't tuned into it, it's called The Sage and the Song with an ampersand. And one of my most recent episodes is called The Alchemy of Home Ownership. And I totally recommend giving it a listen if you're curious to hear more about this story. But getting approved for a loan as an entrepreneur is a thing. It is a thing. So those were several pieces, right? Multiple pieces, increasing the revenue, saving a down payment, loan approval. Those all go under kind of the money obstacle. Then there was the real estate market obstacle, right? And for those of you who have bought a home, perhaps you know what I now know as the sacred trinity, which is when shopping for a home, you're looking for the golden egg that lies at the center of the triangular nest, which is your budget, your location, and the style and kind of needs and qualities of the home that you want. And inside of that is the golden egg. Yeah, divine timing. Thank you. So, so true. Divine timing is huge on here. But is that an obstacle? Yeah, it's definitely part of the equation. You're right. And maybe it felt like an obstacle, right? But it only felt like it because I was trying to buck the current of what was. So, yes. Okay, and then we have this third obstacle, which was the obstacle of me feeling victimized, me feeling like a victim to the real estate market, to the home loan industry, to the United States government and the tax system, and how shisty it feels as an entrepreneur, how much we have to pay of our revenue in taxes, how they only give us the loan for our net profit and not our gross revenue, right? All of these pieces. And what I want to say is that moving through the money obstacle, moving through the real estate market obstacle, what happened in the very end for me was that I went on a walk and I was listening to an audiobook that some of you have heard me talk about called Life Visioning by Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he was talking about the archetype of the victim and led the listener through this meditation. And I sat down on the beach on my walk and I listened to this meditation, and I had such a beautiful wake-up call, realizing that I was still in victim mentality around buying a home. Like 100%, I was stuck and looping in victim mentality. And I then made that, starting in that moment, I made that my number one priority. I realized, oh my goodness, I've been working on all the other practical things, but this energetic thing is not good. This is a huge problem. And as long as I'm feeling like a victim, this house is not going to come. It's not going to come, right? And I kid you not, within 1 week of that day, we saw this house. And then there's a whole story. So if you want the whole story, go check out the podcast. But that's my little blurb on my personal story into homeownership, which has certainly become such a beautiful part of my own prosperity garden, right? And the layers of obstacles. So let's talk about house number one for obstacles. And we're going to start with money because I'm going to assume that most of you are here because you would like more money and you would like to make more money. You would like to feel more abundant and more prosperous and perhaps build some wealth, right? So this is the part of this offering when I would really encourage you to take notes and to jot down for yourself. And if you want to screenshot these, you're welcome to, these slides, because this is really important. This part's important. I want you to create a little bit of a list, a little bit of a brain, what do they call it? A mind map, right? Of like current obstacle course, prosperity obstacle course. So this is the first house we're going to look at. It's the house of money. I'm going to offer some some obstacles, maybe some of you will have some others that you recognize in your life that are popping up. So financial obstacles, that's a bit general. I think all these fall under financial obstacles. You might be in debt. You might have low credit or bad credit. You might have had to file for bankruptcy in the past and are still recovering from that. You might have no retirement or investment plan, or maybe you have some money in an IRA or something, but you don't have a really good solid strategy. And there's part of your psyche that thinks about, I'm XX number of years old, and at what point am I going to start taking this seriously? Perhaps right now you are unemployed. Perhaps you're not, maybe it's not that you're unemployed, you have a job or you have a business, but for some reason you're unable to work right now. Maybe you're injured. Maybe you are caretaking. Maybe there's something going on in your body, in your family, in your life that is stopping you from being able to really generate more money in the way that you used to. Maybe you are employed, but you don't like your current job. Maybe you feel there's a glass ceiling on what you can earn in your work, in your industry, in your field. And maybe you feel that there are beliefs or wounds or stories or narratives that are yours or your ancestors or the collective pain body of humans or of women or of entrepreneurs or of people on the margins or people of color or however, any fractal of that feel insurmountable, that feel overwhelming and like you don't really know where to begin. So this is a personal thing to share. So I'm not going to ask you to share this in the chat because I want to respect where you are. So what I would love to say is, if as you read through these, you feel like you are pretty minimal on the money barriers, money obstacles are pretty minimal. Like there might be one or two, but pretty minimal. Maybe you could pop a 1 in the chat. And if you're feeling like money, like you've got a bit of a list from what we just read, and it's a bit stacked, maybe you can pop a 2 in the chat. And we can simply hold one another in the reality of obstacles, current obstacles. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Great. We got some 1s and we got some 2s. And all is well, right? I breathe, therefore I prosper, and we're here in it as students. You can always take a big breath. If it's feeling a bit heavy, if it's feeling a bit overwhelming, big breath in. All right, there are 3 houses total. So let's move into the heart house. Again, I encourage you to take notes. In the heart house, we have the state of your relationship with your family members, with your friends. If you're in intimate partnership or if you're not in intimate partnership, and how you feel about it either way. Your relationship with community or lack thereof. Grievances. And there's such a beautiful definition of grievance by, I suppose it's in A Course in Miracles, which I've heard from Marianne Williamson, in which she defines grievance as simply wanting life to be other than it is. That's how she defines grievance. resentments toward the people in our lives, toward the world, toward the industry, right? I didn't write victimization. I feel like that kind of goes across all three houses, but we certainly feel it in our heart. Lack of forgiveness, lack of compassion. Maybe there's something that you feel unable to move on from, something that you're having a really hard time getting over. Maybe you feel a lack of belonging. Maybe you lack relationship to place, which is such an important piece, right? At first, I was going to create a separate house for home, but home is where the heart is, right? Home is in here. So our relationship to place, the land where you live, the home that you live in, right? Is your home environment safe? Is it uplifting? Is it beautiful? Is it aligned with who you are, with your values, with your integrity? So again, I would love to hear in the chat a 1 if you feel like with this assessment, things are pretty good in your heart house. And then a 2 if things feel a little heavy and a little stacked in your heart house. Oh, I'm seeing so many 1s. Fantastic. Let's give our heart a little rub of joy for that. Blessed be. All right. Beautiful. Let's keep going. Into the 3rd house of purpose. So purpose, of course, includes our work, and it's so much more than that. So some of the obstacles that I see a lot, recognize in myself and see in a lot of my clients, because this is so much of where my work is, not feeling like you are living your calling or living on purpose, feeling like you're unexpressed in your zone of genius. Like what are my gifts? What is my original medicine? What is my magic? Maybe that's unclear. Maybe you feel disconnected to what lights you up. Maybe you have regrets. Maybe you feel envious more than you feel inspired of other people who are in your industry or who you see doing amazing things. And instead of being able to get yourself to a place of, wow, I'm envious of this person. So, well, that must mean that because they did it, I can do it too, right? It actually is a pretty quick jump from envy to inspiration, but it is a jump. It is a bit of a leap. And we have to build that muscle, I think, to be able to catch ourselves and not then kind of spiral downward into pity or resentment or judgment or victimization or any of those lower frequencies. Maybe you are afraid that you're doing something wrong, that you missed your chance, that life is passing you by, that you're always behind. Maybe you feel a bit unmotivated or rudderless or pathless. Or maybe you feel lacking in integrity and in courage. Like you know something has to change, but you're afraid to take the leap. So one more time, dear ones, I'd love to see in the chat a 1 if you feel like this area of purpose is pretty light. Like maybe there's 1 place or 2 places, or a 2 if it feels like, oof, this needs some work. Okay. And again, honoring ourselves right where we are. Taking a breath. So here's the piece where I would love to invite you to take these findings, these observations that you've made today, and I would love for you to identify out of everything that you wrote down from all three houses, what do you think in this moment today is the specific obstacle that feels the most heavy for you, that is weighing on you the most heavily? What's the specific obstacle that's weighing on you the most heavily today? And in this area, this era of your life. And I would love for you to write it down, and if you are willing, to share it in the chat. Because that's what we're doing today. We are naming our obstacles. And hopefully the list that you made, whether it was on the lighter side or on the heavier side, in both of those three houses, would love for you to hold on to that, right? Because that right there, my love, that is your map. That's your map for your work this year, right? Because what's in the way is the way. Our obstacles are the curriculum. They are. They are what Spirit is saying, hey, I want to see if you're going to settle. I want to see if you really know how beautiful and fabulous and incredibly creative you are. Do you know how amazing you are? I want to see. How are you going to do with this obstacle? How are you going to maneuver, right? Thank you so much for sharing that. Lack of courage to take the leap and make the change to step more fully into the next phase in career. I am not in flow with my calling. Okay. I'm afraid that what I'm doing is out of alignment with my true purpose, feeling uncertain about what the purpose is specifically for me. Unemployed due to injury and debt with no retirement or investments. And in the purpose house, I often get afraid that I'm doing something wrong and get envious. Yeah. Oh, feeling out of balance between energetic output and monetary compensation, wishing I could afford more help. So breathing, right? Breathing, and anytime you feel you need to, bringing your hands on your beautiful body and simply sending yourself some love and some compassion. This right here, I believe, is really brave work. So thank you for being here, for showing up for yourself and being willing to name it. Because naming it, right? Fear of the name increases fear of the thing itself. So if we can name it and we can put it out there, and then we can apply our boundless, magnificent, creative life force energy to it, and call in the help of Spirit, of our ancestors, of our guides, of Divine Mother, of Creatrix and Creator, we will find our way, right? It is inevitable. Your legacy is inevitable. Your abundance is inevitable. Your prosperity is inevitable. And it begins with this moment, with how we choose to enter into this relationship with our obstacles. So here's the next step. And this is the last piece for today. I would love, this is your homework, so I won't have you do this now, but feel free to write this question down or take a screenshot. And I would love for you today to set aside some time, light a candle, maybe some incense, maybe make a cup of tea or cacao or decaf coffee or whatever gets your rocks off, and brainstorm a list of 10 steps that you could take, could being the very important word here. Not that you will take, right? But that you could take in the near future to tackle and dismantle this obstacle. Little side tip here, I would love to encourage you to make this fun. So that could be that, you put on some amazing music and you infuse your nose with smells you love. That could be that you get out a pad of paper and some really gorgeous Sharpies. That's probably how I would do it. And, have fun with it. Weave some creativity and ritualize it. And simply begin with perhaps even beginning with an invocation. And in this invocation, I would love to invite you to close your eyes and offer this obstacle to Spirit. Offer this obstacle to Creatrix, to Divine Mother, to Holy Divinity, whatever shape or form or texture you see that holy presence. Simply offer it to them and say, please take this. Please take this obstacle and transmute it. I'm here. I am your willing devotee. I am going to do the energetic work and I'm going to do the practical work of dismantling this gnarly feeling obstacle. And then I ask you to take it from me and to change it and to change me in the process. So ask for help. See how it feels. And then get practical, get witchy, get intuitive, get creative, and make a list of 10 things that you could do, actions that you could take in the near future, like the next 1 week to 4 weeks, right? Before the end of the month, to begin to chip away at this obstacle. And you don't even have to know which one, right? You could make that list of 10 and then complete with another invocation and say, okay, Spirit, here you go. Which one should I do? Or is there one that I failed to write down? Please remind me. Please help me remember the most important action step. And then, as one of my teachers used to say, let go and let God, or let go and let Goddess, right? So hopefully you can feel that this has both of those pieces, the practical and the spiritual, the tangible and the esoteric, the mundane and the mystic. This is both. This is both and. That's the Real Talk Business Abundance. All right, beloveds, that's what I got for you today. Would love to hear one word, state of your heart after today's lesson, today's curriculum, today's offering. What kind of energy are you taking from this lesson plan? Open, breath, uplifted, encouraged. So happy to hear that. Blessed be. Yeah. Well, I hope you have fun with this activity because, we can have fun with it, right? This is the economy of attention when it comes to our frequency. One of my big pieces this year, and I think this lifetime, in this human vessel, that I continue to find again and again, its curriculum for me is being lighthearted. I can get really serious. I can take myself really seriously. I can take the world really seriously. I can take my relationship really seriously and my job really seriously, right? All of the things. And there's there is something to be said for being sincere and being earnest and being wholehearted, right? And going all in. And I do that. As one of my healers says, you're a sincere girl. You don't need to work so hard to prove your sincerity, right? And can I balance that with like, ooh, little light, little levity? Can I balance that with a little levity? Can we? Can we do it together? Please? Because that's what I need. That's what I'm calling in. Yeah, totally. Totally dance break. Yeah, we can take a dance break. We don't have no music, but we can take a dance break anytime we need. Right now, right now, right now. All right, now that my armpits are sweaty, I'm going to say thanks so much for being with me today. And I'm so excited for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to get real geeky with Befriend Your Numbers, day 3. I hope to see you again, beloveds. Have fun with your optional homework assignment, and I will see you tomorrow. Take good care. Thank you so much for being with me today. Toodles.